Good morning, and welcome to a normal service here at Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation on a beautiful autumn day. This is my ancestor, and remember, to err is human, but to R is pirate. Announcements for this week. Join us on the patio for spooky coffee hour. There will be live music right at the beginning. Please get your coffee, take a seat, listen to the songs, and the food will be served. We have food. Next Sunday, a new members class in room 1, farthest one down. It's going to be in 3? Okay, room 3 for the new members class. I'm a week ahead of myself. If you're new to the congregation or been away from UU for a long time, you're invited. RSVP if possible. There will be light luncheon served, so that's good. We will be hosting a Thanksgiving dinner here on Thanksgiving Day. If you're interested or know people that need a place to spend Thanksgiving Day, please contact the office and so we can get a count on how much turkey to make. Adult RE presents Reimaging Our Principles, Purposes, and Sources, a possible revision to the UUA, a replacement of the principles, possibly. It was discussed at General Assembly last year. It will be discussed again next year. That will be in room 1, and that's in 2 weeks. And I believe for now, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Alan. And thank you, choir. What a fun way to start our service today. It is so good to be back, although I've been back a little while, but to be back here and bringing you the message today and the service. We have a treat because as I was voicing, yes, and I want to do, we're going to do Day of the Dead, and we're going to build an Ofrenda, and our beloved new visitor, Adrienne, said, oh, could I help with that? So she is Mexican-American. She's going to share more of her story in a little while and help us to understand more about this day. And we're gonna do it upright. So thank you for being here. As we open our service, we ring our bowl 3 times. Once for those who came before. The Tongva and other native peoples who were the original stewards of this land and called it home long ago. We also honor our ancestors in a big way today and founding members of this congregation who imagined it and formed it 70 years ago. We ring it once for those of us here and now, both in the sanctuary and in our Zoom sanctuary. We have 9 connections today, so we greet them. For our members and friends, our visitors, our staff, and our extended UU family, all who hold, care, and grow this beloved congregation that we know as our own. And once for those who will come. And today we're not quite sure who will come. We are opening the way. We have the portal here that's a part of our chalice, and we have the marigold strewn as we are ready. We are ready for today. And we also ring that bell for all of those who will come to make Monte Vista UU their spiritual home in the days ahead. And we're going to light our chalice. Adrienne, if you would go ahead and light it for us, please. We light it with the words of Andrea Hawkins Camper, who wrote, "United by story and bound by love." We gather now into this space when the wheel turns and the veil shatters. We gather now to remember, to grieve, to prophesy, to complete our harvest before the long dark comes. We gather now to tell the old stories and sing the old songs, to be as we have always been, the voice of our people eternal. We gather now to celebrate that which was, that which is, and that which will be. We gather now as we have always done, united by story and bound by love. Beautiful. I invite everyone to rise as you're comfortable and as your body allows. We'll sing together our opening song, Spirit of Life. Let's read our covenant together. We affirm that love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve the world in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. I knew today was going to be fun, but yeah. Now, Robert Tidwell, our Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration, will be coming up and adding to the magic. Offering our wisdom tale today.
Hello. I have to take this off so I can wear my glasses to read. But I wanted to wear it. I did come in costume. Okay. There's other masks too. Today's story is called 1,000 Voices, and it's by Tanya Marquez. Every year around this time, there is a distinctive smell in the air, and the trees sway like the whisper of 1,000 voices. That's how I know they are coming. At that point, the perpetual altar in my heart begins taking place outside of me for a few days, and it dances with the joy and at the thought that they are coming. First, the table that will be the altar, a few boxes on top to create different levels. I begin to think about the pictures I am adding to my altar today. the beloved friend who didn't get to say goodbye, the one I loved, my grandparents, the cousin who left too soon. I allow myself to think about the ones whose pictures won't be on my altar, but that I still remember. The fragrance of the marigolds fills the air, flowers made by grandfather's son, a ray of light guiding them back, calling them home. It is a long way here. It is good to have some food and drinks ready so that they may quench their thirst, so that they may eat and gain strength for the way back. I love adding sweet bread and drinking hot chocolate. I imagine a moment of communion that transcends the world of the living. Once the altar is ready, I behold the sight of this place of encounter. They will come, and we will know they are missed. All of the times we spent together, all of the memories come rushing to us. Our elders told us to remember to live again. And that's what we do when we allow ourselves to be surrounded by their presence and the stories of times we spent together. My family and I gather, and we tell stories, we laugh, we also cry a little, we rejoice in their company. Their stories come alive in our telling, and so does the love we still feel. I have learned to listen more often to things than to beings. To listen to my heart that knows a different way of knowing. My heart knows that the dead aren't really dead. Their stories are perpetually being told by the world around us, the trees that sway and the whisper of 1,000 voices. Thank you. And now we can sing myself out. The children aren't here yet, but we are having them at the party. So I will walk down to the classroom and get ready. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Adrienne Dorame, and I am here to introduce myself and discuss Dia de los Muertos holiday and why we'll celebrate it this year. So I am third to fifth generation Mexican American on my maternal grandparents' and paternal grandmother's side. I am also Yaqui Native American and on my paternal grandfather's side, and also a little bit of French on his part of the side as well. I embrace every part of who I am, even parts of my culture that were never taught to me. I never learned the Spanish language or my own Native American culture. However, it is my responsibility now that I teach those parts to myself. As they say in Mexico, nobody ever truly dies unless they are forgotten. Dia de los Muertos is a very special holiday, and it helps to keep family memories alive or friends, really anyone. How the holiday began. In ancient Mexico, rituals celebrating the lives of dead ancestors had been performed by Mesoamerican civilizations for at least 3,000 years. Festivities were presided over a goddess known as Lady of the Dead. It was common practice to use skulls as trophies and display them during rituals to symbolize death and rebirth. The festival began in early August and was celebrated for the entire month. One particular tradition that lives on today is a recipe for sugar skulls, which are brightly decorated and served up by Day of the Dead devotees, and the party hosts with a ghoulish glee. Other traditions, still devoutly observed today during Day of the Dead, are building home altars to honor the dead, like this one. So for my entire life and this year, I've had many losses that consisted of deaths, separations of loved ones, etc. But I also realized that many people in this world have had all kinds of losses. But those whose loved ones have passed away, there is now the opportunity to create a new reality for themselves and their loved ones, a new spiritual relationship that goes on forever. And I choose to celebrate this holiday to honor my pets, aunts, uncles, and grandparents who showed me how to give and receive unconditional love. Unconditional love is a core value that I have always searched for since I was a little girl. I just realized that it was always mine. Around 1918, my maternal grandfather, Grandpa Ramos, walked to the United States from Durango, Mexico, alone after both of his parents died. He was about 13 years old. According to my mother, American farmers shot at him as he came over, and it was a very scary experience. He just wanted to work and make a life for himself, just like any of us. Isn't the majority of this country a nation of immigrants anyways? After he came to California with my grandmother, he actually met her in Texas. He actually taught himself English by reading the newspapers. And actually, where I work, my clients, some of them doubt themselves about, intelligence. And I ask them, what does intelligence mean to you? And they say, well, education. And I tell them, well, intelligence there's all kinds of intelligence. And I talk to him about the different types, but I also tell him the story of how my grandfather learned English reading the newspaper. He had no access to education. So I point out the different strengths in them, and, I help them see that. I believe in seeing the best in everybody. Everybody has strengths. So my grandfather, his wife, and children became migrant farm workers in Delano, California, Central California. And during the 1940s, he was actually friends with Cesar Chavez, labor leader and civil rights activist and co-founder of the National Farm Workers Association. My mother, Julia Ramos, was immersed into child labor, also as a migrant farm worker. And during the 1950s, she came to school late after the season ended for many years. During the 1950s, she would go to school late after the season ended. The Catholic school nuns beat the Spanish language out of my mom. They hit her every time she spoke the language because they wanted her to assimilate into white culture, or mainstream American culture, I should say. My father, who was born and raised in La Habra, California, he attended a segregated elementary school. And during the 1940s, he also grew up in an impoverished community. Although he graduated from high school at age 16 with good grades, he also became a civil engineer. He was still mistreated in the community. He would go to the burger joint, the burger queue, and to study. He never did drugs or drink, but the police would stop him, harass him, and hold a gun to his head. They also raided his parents' home and yard for drugs for no reason and found none. Although I have a bachelor's degree in English and a master's degree in social work with an emphasis in multiculturalism, as a licensed clinical social worker, I provide case management and psychotherapy to clients. I still view the different ways that everyone is subordinated. There's all kinds, right? There's ageism, there's the way women are subordinated, there's physical disabilities, people, are still subordinated, all kinds. So I'm very humbled and it goes on and on and on. I work actually with veterans and how they have PTSD. complex trauma. It goes on. So going forward, when I took Spanish courses in high school and in college, I picked it up really fast. And I also lost it really fast because I had no one to practice with, but I see that as an excuse. And I take responsibility for it, and I plan to enroll in another course soon for fun and to use, it at work. A friend of mine who's a German professor told me that because I was around the language when I was a little girl, when my grandparents spoke it, it became encoded in my brain. So when I think of, for example, my paternal grandmother, Grandma Dorame, when I was 3, sitting in her kitchen for Sunday breakfasts with my family, or sharing an orange creamsicle with her outside in front of an ice cream truck just once, there are no sounds in my memory, just colors, scenes, and her face. But her voice and words are alive inside of me, waiting to come out. My grandmother never died. She lives on inside of me. So I beg the question, is Spanish a language of culture, love, or both? I tell you my family history because it's simply the truth. We are never victims. We are hardworking people who have made sacrifices to support ourselves and to make contributions to society. I have not attained academic or professional success only due to hard work. It comes from the sacrifices of the generations of others and remembering where I come from. For Dia de los Muertos, my friends and I will celebrate it next week. I remember that my maternal grandmother, Grandma Ramos, used to make Mexican meatball soup, albondiga soup with biscuits. She met Russian immigrant women in her community during the 1940s and made the most beautiful breads. One day, while I was in my 20s, I made the soup and biscuits for my friends. While we ate it, my friend, who was half Polish, half Mexican, said, "I didn't know that albondiga soup was made with biscuits." I said, "Yeah, it's the Mexican tradition." She said, "No, it isn't." I said, "Yes, it is." So my friend and I went back and forth in a playful banter. And the next day I called my mom and she said, "No, it isn't. It's made with tortillas or quesadillas." So I said, I said to myself, I guess in the end it's our own family tradition. So next week, I will make the soup and biscuits to honor my Grandma Ramos. Cornflakes and milk for my Grandpa Ramos. I was 4 when I sat down. I would sit with him while he'd eat cornflakes at the breakfast table. Chicken enchiladas with the red sauce. I like the red sauce. Some like the green sauce. For Grandma Dorame with the orange creamsicle. Nopalitos. So that's the cactus. Of course, the thorns are skinned off with beans and rice. Tia Isabel and Tia Lisa Dorame, my aunts. Tia Fernando, my mom's brother. Flour tortillas with butter inside. He died of lung cancer. He had quit 5 years earlier, but it still got him. And I saw him dying. I was 13, and it still breaks my heart. So finally, I have 2 last poems to read to conclude my speech. And the first one goes back to the orange groves in La Habra, where my dad grew up, and he said he used to pick oranges and other fruits. And I still remember the orange groves, right, before they were all cut down. Second one was actually a poem that I wrote when I was about 20 years old about my Grandma Ramos, my mom's mom. So it was actually published in the circulation with other poets when I was in college as an undergraduate. So I'll read the first one about the orange. It's called Ode to an Orange. So here it goes. I gaze onto the orange groves, where fruit circulates, and witness the blossoms, running their fingers through the verdant leaves. I thirst for you, orange. I slice you open, and the sunrise reveals itself to me. Orange zest sprinkles through the streets, spreading fragrance. A celebration like confetti falling in the wind. And your roundness reveals that there is no end to your life. The next one is barriers. Out on the street, my reflection is not in the store window. It comes from a brown stranger. She asks, "Hablas español?" In reluctance, I say, "No, no hablo español, pero." My parents, they believe that I should not only know English, but please don't go, because I still know another language. It's a language of culture. I remember kneeling down to explore my grandmother's quilt and fingering each crocheted loop. Like Braille, I could feel the twists and turns of her hardships, her unpredictable ways. I still see a spectrum of colors sewn into this field of art. Strawberries, green grapes, and cotton. But the red is also the blood that came with the cotton she picked, and her passion spilled onto the blanket she created for me. I've made it, past the borders of her foreign tongue. It's because I wear the memory of her in so many ways. Her embrace is a quilt wrapped around me, and in each rustle, I hear her sigh many hopes. She is my hair, woven into my thick braids, so I can feel the weight of her hardships. I am her dark eyes, but shut to the darkness of despair, while my fingers, threaded together in prayer, hold her rosary. I clasp a pen, determined to never stop writing in English, but feeling in Spanish. I unravel the generations that stand between us. So I cast away my present self, and all time merges. Her legacy is mine. So I invite you, I see some pictures, to place your pictures over here on the Ofrenda. I've got mine. It's little. This is my grandma Dora May feeding me. You can't really see her feeding me, but I'm about 18 months old. Thank you for letting me share. Thank you.
Please come forward with the images that you brought. Wow, look at that. It's so beautiful, so moving. Thank you, Bob, for the beautiful view. I invite everyone to come visit the altar after the service. And hopefully we can take some pictures and spend some time there before we begin to take it apart. Our offering message in reading number 674 from our Singing the Living Tradition songbook names those who currently attend and support a Unitarian Universalist congregation as the keepers of the dream. When Reverend Brandy Lovely called us by that term of endearment, he couldn't have known how important his words would be to us here in 2022. He was 82 years old when he died more than 10 years ago, yet his words seem fresh as they call to us to step forward today, to embrace his title for us, and to see how important it is that we be those keepers of the dream, and honor this place that is so sacred to so many of us with our support for it. So for all of the gifts of this beloved community, whether it is our time or a talent or a treasure, we can all be so very deeply grateful as we promise together to be good stewards of our shared dream. For those of us dream keepers who are struggling to meet financial responsibilities, we hold in our hearts a degree of hope for you, for a better way forward in the days just ahead. And for our beloveds who are here in the Zoom sanctuary, we invite you to join on our donation link that Jarius will put in the chat box. Thank you, Jarius. You can also find the donate button near the bottom of the online order of service, and you can click that as many times a day as you feel it's necessary. We also invite those at home who use the postal service to continue to mail your offerings and pledges to our address here in Montclair. But I now invite those here in the sanctuary to please come forward with your generous offerings and donations for the Beta Center at Inland Valley Hope Partners, because it is with both our celebration and our gratitude that our offering will now be given and received. You wrote that, Lily? Wow. So, good opening for our joys and concerns. Yeah, you are a great joy, and we are so grateful for you. This is the time in our service when we share the things that are weighing us down and lifting us up, our disappointments and our delights, our joys and concerns. We do have these little yellow papers for new folks that are here where you can write down things that you want read during the service or just to let me know things that are going on for you. I have two joys today. I'm not sure which one to read first. I know which one that will bring great applause is from Alan Worley. And after 3 years, on last Monday, he had his final bladder cancer treatment. Yay! Yes, yes. And the other one is great joy too for those that live in the area of our campus here. Judy Chu is the U.S. representative to Congress for this area, and she's a Unitarian Universalist. Did we know that? No, that's great. But there's a story about her in the latest UU World magazine, and this message is from Reverend Ellen, even though she didn't sign it, but I'm going to. I know, and now, right? Now we really like her. And hopefully, we can get her to come visit and maybe speak with us a little bit. I know that she has spoken at Troop Church in Pasadena because she covers that area also. So, yeah, that's great. So, all this joy. So we just pause for a moment, too, because we know that joy and woe are woven fine. Was it William Blake, Ellen? Yeah. Yeah, but they're woven, so we'll just wait just a couple minutes to honor the joys that are unspoken, but also the sorrows and the disappointments that we all carry within us. And then I'll begin the prayer that I invite you to join with me on. Today's prayer comes from the Reverend Dr. Stephen Charleston, who prays, I have been out walking with the ghosts again, the shimmering images of my ancestors, always present but barely visible, walking before me in the cool shadows of evening. I know better than to talk too much, for silence is the language of the sacred. Instead, I listen, as any youngster should, to the wisdom of those who have seen more seasons than can be counted. I receive their thoughts like a benediction, and I hold their vision in my mind like a familiar dream. Do not be afraid, they whisper. As we walk on together, we find the moon already waiting. The reading for today is entitled, They Are Still With Us, and it's written by Kathleen McTeague. In the struggles that we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives, and we belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they live hold us steady. Their words remind us and call back to ourselves their courage and love evoke on our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, their hearts. We take them with us, and with them we choose the deeper path of living. I'd like to begin my shorter than usual message today with a prayer written by Unitarian Universalist minister Rev Maggie Gordon. Molly writes, "Mysterious source of love, moving within and between and among us, upholding and connecting all, the living, the dead, and the generations yet to come. We give thanks for the web of all creation with strands interwoven, and for the gifts of love, which can never be ungiven or unraveled. Amen." In the 2017 animated Disney film Coco, we learn about a Mexican family's adventure on Dia de los Muertos. Hector Rivera is Coco's papa and a gifted songwriter and musician. Each time he is ready to head out for a new gig, he sings a special song he wrote to his young daughter, Coco. He sings, "Remember me. Though I have to say goodbye, remember me. Don't let it make you cry, for even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart, and I sing this secret song to you each night we are apart." And I know you've all got that earworm you'll have the rest of the day, so you're welcome. Coco grows to become the great-grandmother of young Miguel, who also loves to play guitar, and he connects with his great-great-grandfather Hector on the Day of the Dead across the veil and across the 5 generations between them. It tells a love story the way that only Disney can. A love story beyond the day-to-day struggles of family life. A love story that connects the non-physical realms with a child who longs to be in relationship with his ancestors. It's a story about love that doesn't die. Across the years of my work in the tender company of those whose lives are sacked by a necessary focus on death and dying, and in my own heart, it has been stretched and comforted by the ways that each person's story teaches we who are willing listeners that love doesn't die. Our 4th Unitarian Universalist principle calls us to a free and responsible search for truth and for meaning, one that edifies and deepens our understanding. And while I welcome your conversation on this, I believe there is no greater site for an excavation into truth and meaning than in the company of those who are walking between the worlds as they prepare to die, and among those who are grieving for their beloved ones who have died. Those of us who have participated in our Gathering Around Grief group have been some of my greatest teachers. And I enjoyed the writing prompts that came from reading UU minister Elea Kelmer's words in her blog post, "Love Does Not Disappear." She writes, "In the 18 years that I have served as a minister in my small town congregation, I've led 96 memorial services, most for people that I have loved. I didn't realize how much the deaths would hurt. But the longer I stay and the deeper I love and the more I grieve. This seems so obvious, but I was surprised by it. Another surprise has been how our beloved dead seem to make themselves known and how they seem to linger with us for a little while. Once, after a memorial service, everyone left the church and gathered on the sidewalk in the sunlight of a still summer afternoon. As we stood there, a huge gust of wind blew down the street. We could see it coming toward us, almost like a tumbleweed. So for maybe 5 seconds, the wind was all around us and over us. We turned and watched the gust blow down the street, and then it was completely still again. There she goes, someone said. Over the years, I've heard many stories about dragonflies and rainbows and love songs that come on the radio at just the right moment. And maybe it is just coincidence. We can choose to push it away by saying that. Maybe we're looking for signs, so we find them. And our thoughts do create things. But maybe love is vaster than the limits of our understanding. One gift of spending so much of my life as a sole companion to the death and dying is that I lean toward a knowing somewhere deep inside that love doesn't die. Our bodies do, and our tired hearts filled with grief remind us that is true. We won't try to pretend that death doesn't break us. No more hugs or laughter or sharing food. The grief that every one of us carries is our way of acknowledging that our lives have been changed by loss. But love saturates us and touches our lives in ways that we might not have ever expected. And without any trouble at all, we can touch right into our feelings of love for our ancestors. And without stretching too much, we can feel the love back from them as well. Can you sense it now? Does it seem as fresh and new as if they were still here? Would you say it was just one big love ball coming from the memories that you've made together? Or might there be some individuated streams of loving guidance coming to us in every moment? Sacred nuggets that we can engage with in many forms. Maybe that love is still growing in many ways that we can't even begin to understand. I believe that it is. And as Adrienne extinguishes the chalice, you can use that snuffer that's right there. Just cover the flame with it, thanks. We'll all read together our chalice extinguishing words that are in your order of service. I invite you to say with me, if here you found freedom, take it with you into the world. If here you found comfort, go and offer it to others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. And if you believe in peace, go in peace and be makers of peace. Blessed be.